2 hours ago, German opposition leader Friedrich Merz arrived at the White House for what both sides are calling a critical consultation on transatlantic security and economic relations. The meeting comes at a moment of extraordinary tension. American military operations against Iran are reportedly in advanced planning stages. Trade disputes between Washington and Berlin threaten German manufacturing exports. And Merz, who leads Germany's Christian Democratic Union and is positioned to become Chancellor after upcoming elections, must navigate between maintaining essential relationship with America and addressing German domestic concerns about both military adventurism and economic coercion. The timing isn't coincidental. Merz requested the meeting specifically to discuss these interconnected crises before they escalate beyond diplomatic management. Trump agreed to the meeting because he needs European support for Iran operations and wants to pressure Germany on trade issues where he believes American leverage is strongest. Both leaders entered the Oval Office with incompatible objectives and limited room for compromise. The Iran dimension dominated initial discussions according to diplomatic sources familiar with the meeting. Trump reportedly presented Merz with intelligence assessments detailing Iranian nuclear progress and argued that military action to eliminate these capabilities serves German security interests as much as American ones. The argument is that Iranian nuclear weapons would destabilize the Middle East, threaten European energy security, and potentially provide nuclear technology to terrorist organizations targeting Western cities. Merz's response, according to sources, was diplomatically cautious but substantively resistant. Germany supports preventing Iranian nuclear weapons development, but questions whether military strikes achieve that objective or merely trigger regional conflict that harms German interests. Merz emphasized that Germany participated in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that was constraining Iranian nuclear development through diplomatic means until the United States withdrew unilaterally in 2018. He suggested that reviving diplomatic frameworks makes more strategic sense than military operations whose long-term consequences remain unpredictable. Trump's reaction revealed the fundamental disconnect. American planning assumes that overwhelming military force can achieve strategic objectives and that allies will support American operations because shared security interests require it. Merz represents European perspective that military force solves tactical problems while creating strategic complications, and that European nations have legitimate reasons to question American military judgment given recent Middle East history. The trade tensions added complexity to already difficult discussions. Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on German automobile exports, which represent a significant portion of German manufacturing economy. German car manufacturers employ hundreds of thousands of workers across Germany and support extensive supplier networks. Tariffs threatening this sector create domestic political pressure that any German leader, including Merz as potential future chancellor, cannot ignore. Merz reportedly argued that trade disputes should be resolved through negotiation rather than unilateral tariff threats, and that transatlantic economic relationship requires mutual benefit rather than American advantage secured through coercion. He emphasized that German companies invest heavily in American manufacturing, creating American jobs, and that disrupting these relationships harms both economies. Trump's position, according to sources, is that Germany has exploited American market access for decades while maintaining barriers against American products, and that tariffs are necessary to rebalance trade relationships that disadvantage American workers. He reportedly told Merz directly that European nations expecting American security guarantees should demonstrate that commitment through economic concessions, including increased defense spending, reduced trade barriers, and support for American foreign policy priorities. This linkage, security guarantees conditional on economic compliance and foreign policy alignment, represents a fundamental shift in American alliance policy. Traditional approach treated security commitments and economic relationships as separate domains managed through different channels. Trump's approach makes security guarantees explicitly transactional, conditioning American defense of Europe on European support for American economic and foreign policy objectives. Merz faces impossible calculation. German public opinion opposes military operations in the Middle East and resents American tariff threats. But German security depends significantly on NATO framework, where American military commitment provides essential deterrence against potential Russian aggression. Merz cannot simply reject American demands without risking security relationship that Germany cannot replace with European capabilities alone. The meeting reportedly included discussion of increased German defense spending as partial solution to these tensions. Trump has consistently demanded that European NATO members increase military budgets to meet alliance targets. Merz indicated willingness to support higher defense spending if he becomes Chancellor, but emphasized that building military capabilities takes years and cannot immediately address current crises over Iran and trade. Trump's response suggested that increased defense spending, while necessary, isn't sufficient to satisfy American demands. He wants German political support for Iran operations, German market access for American products, and German recognition that transatlantic alliance requires European alignment with American priorities on issues Washington considers strategically vital. Within hours of the meeting concluding, both sides released statements that revealed more through what they didn't say than through official language. The White House statement emphasized productive discussions on shared security challenges and economic cooperation. It didn't mention any German commitments to support Iran operations or accept American trade demands. Merz's office released statement emphasizing importance of transatlantic partnership and need for diplomatic solutions to complex challenges. It didn't mention support for military action or trade concessions. The diplomatic language conceals fundamental disagreement. Neither side achieved its objectives. Trump didn't secure German support for Iran operations or trade concessions. Merz didn't obtain American restraint on military planning or tariff threats. The meeting revealed the gap between American expectations of Allied support and European willingness to provide it. European reaction to the meeting has been mixed. France, already publicly opposed to Iran military operations, viewed Merz's resistance to American pressure as validation of French position that European nations should assert strategic autonomy rather than automatically aligning with Washington. Germany's current government, which Merz hopes to replace, criticized the meeting as premature interference in German domestic politics and questioned whether opposition leaders should be negotiating with foreign powers on matters of national security. Eastern European NATO members watched the meeting with concern. Poland and Baltic states depend heavily on American security guarantees against Russian threats and worry that German-American tensions could weaken NATO cohesion precisely when they need alliance unity most. These nations want Germany to support American leadership to maintain transatlantic solidarity, even if that means accepting American demands they might otherwise question. China and Russia are monitoring transatlantic tensions with considerable interest. Beijing sees opportunity to deepen economic relationships with European nations, seeking alternatives to American-dominated trade frameworks. Moscow views German-American discord as weakening NATO unity and creating space for Russian influence. Both nations benefit from alliance tensions and will work to exploit divisions that meetings like this reveal even when they don't resolve. 3 scenarios emerge from this diplomatic engagement. First, Merz becomes Chancellor and attempts to balance competing pressures by providing token support for American priorities while preserving German autonomy on issues where domestic politics make compliance impossible. Transatlantic relationship survives through managed disagreement rather than fundamental alignment. Second, American pressure intensifies, and Germany faces explicit choice between supporting Iran operations and accepting trade demands or losing American security commitment. This scenario forces crisis that either breaks transatlantic alliance or compels German capitulation despite domestic political costs. Third, military operations against Iran proceed without German support, demonstrating that American power doesn't require European consent. Transatlantic alliance continues, but European nations recognize that American strategic decisions will be made unilaterally regardless of European concerns, fundamentally changing alliance dynamics. 2 hours ago, Trump received Merz against backdrop of Iran war planning and trade tensions. The meeting was supposed to strengthen transatlantic coordination. Instead, it revealed how far American and European strategic perspectives have diverged and how difficult it will be to bridge that gap when American demands require European compliance rather than European consultation. Merz returned to Germany without commitments that would satisfy Trump and without concessions that would satisfy German voters. Trump continues planning for Iran operations and trade actions that Germany opposes. The meeting happened. The problems remain. And the transatlantic alliance faces questions about whether shared security interests are sufficient to overcome fundamental disagreements about how to pursue those interests and at whose cost. The backdrop of Iran war and trade tensions didn't disappear during the meeting. It defined the meeting. And when Merz left the White House, that backdrop remained exactly as threatening as when he arrived, with no clear path toward resolution that serves both American and German interests simultaneously.